Alexander Kane had everything a man could want: a thriving empire, a luxurious penthouse, and the prospect of a second chance at love. He was ready to walk down the aisle again, to leave the past behind, and to embrace a future with someone who understood him. But fate, as always, had other plans. One quiet afternoon, while visiting the hospital for a routine checkup for a business partner, a nurse approached him with a puzzled look. "Sir, we need you to confirm something. You're listed as the father on this chart." He froze. A child, barely 6 years old, looked up at him with wide, innocent eyes. The word "Dad" echoed in the sterile hospital room, shattering the life Alexander thought he had under control. In a single heartbeat, plans, pride, and ambition crumbled. He never expected fatherhood to find him. And neither did anyone else. The city skyline gleamed under the golden afternoon sun, reflecting off the glass towers Alexander Kane had built with his own hands. Every floor of his empire was a testament to control, precision, and the life he meticulously planned. He had made mistakes in the past, yes, but he believed in redemption, strategy, and second chances. Today, he was ready for his second chance, ready to marry someone who could navigate his world of power and ambition without fear. Yet, life has a way of appending even the best laid plans. Alexander had agreed to visit the hospital for a routine checkup for a partner in one of his charitable foundations. He expected polite greetings, brief consultations, and then a quick exit to attend a business dinner. But as he walked down the gleaming corridor, a nurse approached him hesitantly, holding a chart. "Mr. Kane?" she asked softly. "Yes," he replied, not yet sensing the storm about to hit. "There's a matter we need to clarify. You're listed as the father on this child's chart," she said, voice trembling slightly. Alexander froze. A child, father. The words collided in his mind like a runaway train. The boy, barely 6, lay in a small hospital bed, his wide, innocent eyes tracking Alexander with curiosity and something familiar. The sterile hum of monitors, the soft beeping of machines, and the faint smell of antiseptic created a world both alien and terrifying. "Sir," the nurse continued, "he's stable, but we need parental consent for his treatment. The mother listed is una bailable." Alexander's world tilted. The plans he had carefully drafted, the wedding, the new life, the love he thought he was finally ready to embrace, all crumbled in the blink of an eye. He knelt beside the boy, heart pounding, voice barely a whisper. I'm your father." The child's small lips curved into a hesitant smile, and the word came, "Dad." It was a single word, yet it carried the weight of years, of secrets, of choices Alexander had never imagined. The man who had thought he had life under control now realized how fragile everything truly was. Outside the room, the nurse left quietly, giving him a moment alone with the boy. Alexander's mind raced. Who was the mother? Why had no one told him? And most importantly, what did this mean for the life he had just begun to rebuild? For the first time in years, Alexander Kane felt powerless. He reached out, gently taking the boy's hand. Small, warm, and surprisingly familiar. It was a connection that no contract, no deal, no ambition could ever replicate. And in that hospital room, surrounded by the hum of machines and the innocence of a child he never knew, Alexander Kane understood one truth: some surprises don't come with warnings. Some responsibilities don't ask for permission. Fatherhood had found him, and it would change everything. Alexander Kane sat in the stark hospital waiting room, the sterile white walls pressing down on him like the weight of every decision he had ever made. The boy's tiny hands still rested in his own, a fragile lifeline that seemed to tether Alexander to a reality he hadn't been prepared for. The nurse had left him with the chart, and he read it over and over. The child's name was Noah Kane, age 6, blood type, allergies, past conditions, all carefully documented, yet something felt unfinished, incomplete. And then he saw the mother's name, Alina Rivera. His chest tightened. He remembered her, a brief, passionate chapter in his life years ago, a connection that had ended abruptly and painfully. She had vanished without warning, leaving no explanation, no forwarding address, no way to reach her. He had assumed she had moved on, that the brief spark they had shared was just a memory. Yet here she was, or at least the consequences of her presence, alive in the form of this small boy. Alexander rose and walked to the nurse's station. "Where is she?" he demanded, trying to keep his voice calm. The nurse hesitated. "Mr. Kane, she signed the admission papers 3 years ago, and then, she didn't show up. We've been unable to contact her since." The boy was left under our care until a legal guardian could be located. Alexander's mind reeled. 3 years, 3 years he could have been in Noah's life, and yet he had been completely unaware. Anger, guilt, and disbelief collided within him, each emotion stronger than the last. He turned back to Noah, who looked up at him with wide, innocent eyes. "Dad?" the boy asked again, his voice trembling slightly. Alexander knelt beside him, swallowing hard. Yes, I'm your dad. I'm here now." Noah's small hand reached for his, gripping tightly, and in that grip, Alexander felt a connection so profound, it threatened to break down every wall he had built around his heart. He spent the next hour reading through medical reports, asking questions, and trying to understand what had happened. Noah had been healthy at birth but had suffered a severe respiratory infection that required specialized care. Alina had somehow managed to provide for him. Yet she had vanished when circumstances became too overwhelming. Alexander's thoughts raced. How could she leave him out of Noah's life? How could she think he wouldn't want to know, wouldn't want to be a father? And yet, as he looked at the boy, he realized that blame was meaningless now. The child didn't care about the mistakes of adults. The child only cared about love and presence. He stayed with Noah until evening, watching him sleep, marveling at how much he looked like a younger version of himself. The resemblance was uncanny, the same dark eyes, the same shy smile. Alexander's heart ached with regret, wishing he had been part of this boy's life from the very beginning. The following day, Alexander demanded access to any records about Alina Rivera. He wanted answers, closure, and the chance to understand why the woman he had once loved had disappeared. But hospital policies, privacy concerns, and missing documentation made it nearly impossible. "Mr. Kane," Dr. Hayes said gently, "I understand your frustration, but your priority now should be your son. He needs you." Alexander nodded, reluctantly putting his anger aside. "I know, but I also need to know the truth. I need to know why she left." That evening, he returned to Noah's bedside, sitting quietly as the boy drifted in and out of sleep. He whispered softly, "I'm not going anywhere. Noah, you won't be alone anymore. I'll make sure of that." The next morning, Alexander met with a private investigator he had employed years ago for business matters. "I need you to find her," he said firmly. "Alina Rivera. Alive or dead, I need to know what happened to her." The investigator nodded. "Consider it done, but be prepared. The truth may not be what you expect." Days turned into a week. Each day, Alexander balanced his role as a CEO with his new role as a father. Every meeting, every decision, every phone call felt different. He now had a life that required more than ambition, more than profit. It required heart. Noah, unaware of the tension surrounding him, began to respond to Alexander. He laughed when Alexander made silly faces, asked endless questions about the world, and clung to him whenever he sensed worry. Slowly, the bond between father and son grew, fragile yet unbreakable, like a thread spun from trust and need. One night, Alexander found Noah staring out the window, tears in his eyes. "I want mommy," he whispered. Alexander knelt beside him, heartbreaking. "I know, son. I don't know where she is either, but I promise, we'll find her. And until then, I'm here. I'll be your family. I'll be your everything if you let me." Noah's small arms wrapped around him, clinging desperately, and in that embrace, Alexander felt a shift, a surrender to love he had never anticipated. The past, with all its mistakes, regrets, and missed opportunities, began to melt away, leaving only the promise of the future. Alexander knew he had a long road ahead. He had to find Alina, understand her reasons, and ensure Noah's happiness. But for the first time in years, he also knew something else, that love could find you even in the most unexpected places. And that fatherhood, once thrust upon you, could transform a man in ways he had never imagined. And as he sat by Noah's bedside that night, holding his son close, Alexander Kane realized that some surprises weren't punishments, they were second chances. The hospital room was quiet except for the soft beeping of Noah's monitor and the occasional shuffle of nurses outside the door. Alexander sat in the chair beside his son's bed, watching him sleep, small chest rising and falling in gentle rhythm. Fatherhood was nothing like he imagined. It wasn't power, control, or calculated decisions. It was patience, worry, and an overwhelming desire to protect. Every small sound Noah made, a cough, a sigh, a murmur, sent a jolt through Alexander's heart. He leaned closer, brushing a strand of dark hair from the boy's forehead. "I'm here, Noah. I'm not going anywhere," he whispered. "I promise." Noah stirred, half awake, blinking at him with sleepy eyes. "Dad?" he asked softly. "Yes," Alexander said, holding back tears. "It's me. Over the next few days, Alexander stayed with Noah almost constantly. He learned the small routines, the bedtime story rituals, the favorite toys, even the way Noah liked his blanket tucked in a certain way. It was exhausting but rewarding. And Alexander began to feel a connection he had never known was missing from his life. Meanwhile, his private investigator made slow but steady progress. Elena Rivera had disappeared after a complex series of events, including an accident and financial difficulties that forced her to remain hidden. She hadn't wanted Alexander involved, fearing his busy life and the chaos it could bring to Noah. Alexander's frustration grew. "She should have trusted me," he muttered to the nurse one afternoon. "She did the best she knew," the nurse said gently, but she wanted to protect him. "Sometimes people think leaving is the safest choice." Her words echoed in Alexander's mind. He realized that blame wasn't productive. What mattered now was creating a stable life for Noah, and eventually confronting the past with compassion, not anger. Noah began to respond more openly. He smiled when Alexander played silly games, laughed at his father's exaggerated stories, and even whispered secrets about school and friends. Each interaction chipped away at Alexander's walls, replacing pride with humility, ambition with devotion. One evening, Alexander walked Noah to the window, pointing out the city lights. "Do you see all those lights, Noah?" he asked. "Every one of them is a person living a story, and we're just starting ours." Noah smiled shyly. "Will Mommy be in our story too?" Alexander's chest tightened. "Yes, I promise, we'll find her, and when we do, she'll be part of our story again." That night, he stayed late, reviewing Elena's files, cross-referencing addresses, hospital records, and travel logs. The investigation was slow, frustrating, and emotionally draining, yet each piece of information, no matter how small, felt like a step closer to completing his family. By the end of the week, Noah was improving steadily, his energy returning, and Alexander had begun to adjust to a life where love, not business, was his priority. One morning, a call came through from the private investigator. "I have a lead. She's alive, and she's in the city. I've narrowed down her location to a small clinic near downtown, but be careful. She's wary of anyone contacting her." Alexander's heart raced. "I understand. Keep me informed. I won't let her slip away again." As he hung up, he looked down at Noah, who was coloring quietly in bed. "We're going to bring her home," Alexander said softly. Together, Noah's small hand reached for his, gripping tightly, and in that grip, Alexander felt hope. Fragile, yes, but real. He realized something profound. Fatherhood wasn't just a role, it was a responsibility, a privilege, and a second chance at love. That night, as Noah slept peacefully, Alexander sat by the window, the city lights reflecting in his eyes. He had no idea how Elena would react, how the reunion would unfold, or what challenges awaited. But one truth was certain: he would face it all, because this time, he wasn't just thinking of himself, he was thinking of the boy who had already changed his life forever. And Alexander Kane knew this was only the beginning of a journey that would redefine everything he thought he knew about love, family, and what it meant to truly belong. The city was quiet under the late afternoon sun as Alexander parked his sleek black car near a small downtown clinic. The building was modest, almost hidden among the crowded streets, but to Alexander, it represented everything he had been searching for, the woman who had once held his heart, and the answers he so desperately needed. He stepped inside, heart hammering, every nerve alive. The waiting room was empty except for a receptionist and a few patients. He asked quietly, "Elena Rivera?" A young nurse glanced at him, then nodded toward a small examination room at the back. Alexander swallowed hard, then walked toward it. Inside, Elena sat on a chair, her expression guarded. She looked older than he remembered, stronger, wary, and yet still the same woman whose laughter had once filled his life. Noah clung to her side, his small hand in hers. "Elena," Alexander began, voice trembling, but she held up her hand to stop him. "Don't," she said firmly. "Not yet." He nodded, taking a cautious step closer. "I know I have no right to just appear after all these years, but I found him. He's safe. He's my son." Elena's eyes widened, a mix of relief and pain flashing across her face. You know, I know everything," Alexander said. "The hospital told me," the nurse explained. "Noah is my son, and I'm not leaving his life again." Noah looked up, eyes wide, as if sensing the storm of emotion between the adults. "Daddy," he whispered. Alexander knelt beside him. "Yes, son. I'm here now, always." Elena's expression softened, but her voice was still tinged with bitterness. You don't understand. I left because I thought you'd never have time for him. You were building an empire, living a life that didn't have room for love. For us. Alexander shook his head, heart aching. I was blind. I thought I was protecting you both by staying away, but all I did was hurt you. I should have been there. Every moment, every birthday, every tear you shed alone. Tears welled in Elena's eyes. And now, Alexander reached out gently, taking her hand in his. Now I'm ready to make it right. I don't care about my schedule, my empire, or anyone else. My only priority is you two, my family. I won't fail again. Elena studied him, searching for sincerity, for the man she once trusted. Slowly, she nodded, letting a single tear fall. It's going to take time, she whispered. I'll wait, Alexander said firmly. As long as it takes. Noah watched silently, then smiled shyly. Daddy, will we all live together? Alexander looked at Elena, heart swelling. Yes, Noah, we're a family now. All of us. Elena took a deep breath, finally allowing herself to lean slightly toward him. I never stopped hoping you'd come back, she admitted. Alexander's voice was soft, full of emotion. Neither did I was too proud, too stubborn, too afraid. But I've learned that love isn't about control or timing. It's about presence. And I'm here, Elena. I'm here for both of you. Noah jumped into Alexander's arms, clinging tightly. Elena watched, her eyes filled with tears but also a glimmer of hope. The past, with all its mistakes, regrets, and distance, began to fade. Over the next few hours, Alexander, Elena, and Noah talked, laughed, and cried together. Stories of the past, missed birthdays, and secret achievements were shared. Each revelation chipped away at the walls between them, building a foundation for trust, love, and unity. By evening, as the sun dipped behind the city skyline, Elena finally spoke. We'll have to rebuild everything. Noah deserves that, and so do we. Alexander nodded, holding both of them close. We will, and I promise, this time, I won't let anything tear us apart. The day ended not with grand gestures, but with quiet affirmation, the kind of peace that comes when hearts start to heal, when mistakes are acknowledged, and when second chances are embraced. As they left the clinic together, Alexander realized that life had given him the greatest gift he could ever receive, a chance to be the father, the partner, and the man he had always wanted to be. And in Noah's laughter, Elena's cautious smiles, and the warmth of their hands intertwined, Alexander Kane understood something profound. Love isn't measured by time apart, but by the moments you choose to be present. For the first time in years, he felt whole. Weeks passed since the reunion at the clinic, and the Kane household slowly transformed into a home filled with warmth, laughter, and love. The city skyline still glimmered outside their penthouse windows, but inside, the most important empire Alexander had ever built was no longer constructed of steel and glass. It was built of trust, forgiveness, and family. Noah's laughter echoed through the halls as he chased after his father in a playful game of hide-and-seek. Alexander, dressed in casual clothes rather than a business suit, joined in wholeheartedly, realizing that the simple joy of being present was more fulfilling than any boardroom victory. Elena watched them quietly, smiling as she prepared a snack in the kitchen. The tension that had lingered between her and Alexander had softened into something gentle, grounded, and hopeful. He had proven, day by day, that he was committed, not just to Noah, but to her as well. One evening, Alexander took a moment alone with Elena on the balcony. The city lights twinkled below, like stars mirrored in glass. I know I can't undo the past, he said softly, but I can promise this. I will never let you or Noah feel abandoned again. Elena reached for his hand, her eyes glistening. I never stopped hoping for that. But now, I believe it. Inside, Noah was building a tower of blocks, humming a song Alexander remembered Elena singing years ago. The sound filled Alexander's heart with a sense of peace he hadn't known he was capable of feeling. Over the next few months, the family settled into routines that were ordinary yet extraordinary. Alexander attended parent-teacher meetings, helped Noah with homework, and even learned how to cook breakfast, something he had never imagined himself doing. He realized that true power wasn't in the deals he closed or the skyscrapers he owned. It was in the love, care, and attention he gave to the family he had once nearly lost. Elena and Alexander worked together to create a safe, nurturing environment for Noah, blending discipline with freedom, and teaching him about love, resilience, and the importance of family. They laughed, they cried, and they forgave, not because the past was forgotten, but because they chose to rise above it. One morning, as sunlight streamed through the windows, Noah ran up to his father, hugging him tightly. "Daddy," he said, "I love our family." Alexander knelt down, tears welling in his eyes. "I love you, Noah, more than anything." He looked at Alina, his heart full. "I've waited my whole life for this moment, to be your family, fully, completely, forever." Alina smiled, placing her hand over his heart. "Then, let's never let it go." Weeks later, Alexander arranged a small celebration at the hospital, a gesture of gratitude and reconciliation. Nurses, doctors, and staff who had cared for Noah over the years were invited. Alexander spoke briefly, his voice steady but filled with emotion. "This child reminded me of what's truly important. Success isn't measured by wealth or power, but by the love we share and the lives we touch. And this family, this is my greatest achievement." As the evening ended, Noah ran into his father's arms, laughing. Alina stood beside them, her eyes shining with pride and hope. Alexander felt a quiet satisfaction that no business acquisition or high-profile deal had ever given him. He had learned the hardest lessons of his life: regret, absence, and the consequences of choices made in haste. But he had also learned the most rewarding lesson of all: that love, patience, and presence could rebuild even what seemed irreparably broken. That night, as the three of them watched the city lights flicker below, Alexander whispered a silent vow to himself. He would never let ambition overshadow family again. He had been given a second chance, and he would cherish it forever. In Noah's laughter, in Elena's smile, and in the quiet warmth of a family finally whole, Alexander Kane found his true legacy. Not the towers of steel and glass, but the lives he had touched, the love he had nurtured, and the bond he would protect at all costs. For the first time in years, the billionaire CEO didn't feel like a man running from the past. He was a father, a partner, and a man redeemed. And as the night sky stretched endlessly above them, one truth resonated deeply in his heart: family is not defined by the years you miss, but by the love you choose to give every single day. Alexander Kane thought he had everything under control: a thriving empire, a second chance at love, and a life carefully planned. But one phone call from the hospital changed everything. A child he never knew existed, calling him Dad, shattered his world and forced him to face the past he thought he had left behind. This is a story of lost time, forgiveness, and the power of second chances. Watch as a billionaire CEO learns what it truly means to be a father, to love without limits, and to rebuild a family he almost lost forever. Witness every heartfelt moment, tear, and laugh as Alexander, Alina, and Noah navigate the challenges of reconnecting and forming a bond that no obstacle can break. Subscribe for more emotional millionaire romance stories that touch the soul, inspire hope, and remind us all that family is worth fighting for.